Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be looking at the Pinnacle novel Doctor Who and the Dinosaur Invasion by Malcolm Hulke, which of course wrote the TV episode as well. Nice little cover art, which it doesn't actually have the Doctor on it like most of theirs do. That will come into play in a moment. And there's the back. This of course is the novel version of the Invasion of the Dinosaurs from season 11. And here it talks about the Doctor's companions, Sarah Jane Smith and the Brigadier. But before we start reviewing the story, there's an interesting thing up here at the top, and it talks about the fourth Doctor Who. This episode features the fourth Doctor who has survived 3 incarnations: the long trailing scarf, the floppy wide-brimmed hat, the mop of curly hair, and the wide-eyed stare. All of these are the obvious trademarks of the fourth Doctor, along with a delightful mix of personality traits. And we all remember that wonderful season 11 story starring Tom Baker of the Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And, wait a minute. And I know what you're thinking, but exactly. As we all know, this is the third Doctor story. But in the book, it gives you the impression, at least right here at this little tagline at the beginning, that it's the fourth Doctor story, even though that's not mentioned in the story. Now, let's keep in mind, Pinnacle Books is an American company, not like, say, the Target novels. Matter of fact, this book was published, first printing in May of 1979. That's important. And it says Pinnacle Books, Inc., 1430 Broadway, New York, New York, 10018. So this was made in America. And some of you watching might be thinking, my goodness, those Americans were really dumb. They thought this was the fourth Doctor story. Americans are so dumb. And I'm not disagreeing with you, but these particular Americans were actually very, very smart. Because think about it, it's May of 1979. Tom Baker is still the Doctor. And the only Doctor Americans really are aware of, I think. I'm sure some of the other Doctors were being shown, but here in 1979, and I'm talking about this like I was there, I hadn't been born yet, the fourth Doctor was, I think, the ones Americans were really familiar with. It was the one we were first introduced to. So Tom Baker was the Doctor for the niche audience of Doctor Who fans that were in America at the time. So it makes sense to take a story like this that most people here had probably never seen and put it as a fourth Doctor story. Now, it's not written as a fourth Doctor story. Again, this is Malcolm Hulke. He knows it's a third Doctor story. And so the Doctor in the story is still the third Doctor. His personality is still that of the third Doctor. He talks like the third Doctor. They just added that little tagline right here. So anyone who looked at it would be mentally picturing the fourth Doctor. This is probably so to not confuse the Americans who might have bought this book at the time, because if you try to talk about another Doctor they're not familiar with, they might be less interested in buying the book, whereas if you talk about the Doctor they know, they're familiar with, they might be like, yes, I love that guy, his scarf's awesome, let me get this book. So it makes sense. It's actually a really intelligent thing to do for the time. No internet, a lot of people might not know about previous Doctors. Very clever, I think. Now, the story itself, again, third Doctor, very much the third Doctor. The novel is written as the third Doctor. It's the third Doctor. Although it does bring up the concept of, I wish I had noticed that little tagline at the beginning. I didn't until about halfway through the story. Because I think it would have been fun to have mentally pictured this in my head as a fourth Doctor story. Have you ever done that? It's a cool idea to read a novelization of a TV episode from Classic Who or Modern Who and try picturing a different Doctor in that story. That's fascinating to me. Like to have pictured the Invasion of the Dinosaurs, but with the fourth Doctor. How different would it have been? Because the third Doctor and fourth Doctor have very different personalities. How different would events have unfolded? That's an interesting concept to me. Especially considering, like, imagine the third Doctor in a second Doctor story, or the second Doctor in a third Doctor story. Imagine, like, the second Doctor in Spearhead from Space, or the third Doctor in The Dominators, because the second and third Doctors are very different. Their personalities are vastly, vastly different. It's probably why they don't get along very well. They're very, very different. So it's interesting to see how they would have reacted in these situations and how different those stories would have been. I find that fascinating. I think that's one of the reasons I like Web of Fear, and even to an extent, The Invasion, because they're like proto-Pertwee stories. They're like Pertwee unit stories, but with the Second Doctor, and they have a different feel to them, and that fascinates me. It utterly, utterly fascinates me. And you can even do that with modern Who. How would some of Tennant's stories work with Capaldi? Or how would some of Capaldi's stories work with Whittaker? Fascinating to think about, I find. But moving on to the book itself, there's some interesting things here that, unlike a couple of the last reviews where the book has been pretty much the same as the TV episode, there are some subtle differences here. Some things I like better about the book, some things I like better about the episode. One of the things I really love about the novel is that it really goes into detail about Mike Yates and Captain Yates, and kind of gives more of a reasoning why he betrays Unit the way he does. And it does this by tying into what happens to him in The Green Death, when he gets hypnotized in The Green Death and almost made to kill the Doctor, and only snapped out of it at the last minute. Because it mentions that briefly in the story about him just getting back from vacation. He had been gone a while. It doesn't really touch on it that much, though. It just, because I have to mentally remind myself this is only 2 stories after The Green Death, because you have The Green Death, The Time Warrior, and then Invasion of the Dinosaurs happening right after Time Warrior. And so Yates has just gotten back from his vacation. And the episode never really got that across to me, how much the events of The Green Death might have affected him mentally, whereas the book does a really good job of convincing you that one of the reasons he betrays Unit and starts working with the bad guys is because of the events of The Green Death and the trauma he went through and all the brainwashing and mental stuff he went through. And I like that. I love when there are effects from events of an episode that carry into another episode, much like how the events of Inferno are still affecting the Doctor mentally in The Mind of Evil. That's why the machine has him seeing fires, because that's still with him. And that's a lot like that for Yates here, whereas the events of The Green Death are leading into what's happening in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, all the trauma he suffered. And then while he was on vacation, perhaps mentally he was still susceptible to where he allowed himself to be persuaded by these people that, hey, we need to bring back, this golden age, which would cause the deaths basically of billions of people. And the fact he went along with that. So I like the fact the book does that, because it's always seemed out of character for me for Yates to do that. And now I have a much more believable reason for why Yates does the actions he does, and why in Planet of the Spiders he's trying to make up for that, because he's gotten better. He's gotten like the mental help he needs. And he's gotten his head firmly on his shoulders at that point, so he's trying to make amends in Planet of the Spiders. So I absolutely love that about the novel. That alone makes the novel worth reading. I love that. I also like the fact that in the novel it mentions, not a lot, but especially when she first meets him, that Sarah Jane kind of fancies Yates. She talks about thinking he's attractive, because this could be the first time she's met Yates. Because when Yates walks in the room with somebody else, she sees that one person, she's like, and then she sees Yates, and it mentions in the book, she brightens up immediately. And so she kind of flirts with him a little bit. So I kind of like that, because we don't really, sometimes the companions seem like especially in Classic Who, they don't really have romantic interests sometimes. Or in the case of Leela, it comes out of nowhere, but sometimes they don't. So I like the fact of, Sarah seeing a bloke that she's like, hey, he's kind of nice, that she might fancy. I like that. It adds a little humanity to her as a character. So I like that. Because I never got that from the episode, but I got, it mentions that in the story with the wording. And I like that. It's just a nice little touch I enjoy. I also like that one of the other corporals or sergeant, I think it was a corporal, Bryson, fancies Sarah. And again, it's a small little thing, but when Sarah comes in after having escaped the first time looking for General Finch, because she doesn't realize Finch is in on it yet, And the corporal sees her, and it mentions in the book he was feeling a little lonely, and he liked the look of Sarah. And so he offers to make her tea, to try to talk, he tries to chat her up. It's a little thing, but I like it. Again, it adds a little realism to the story, which I really like. I also like the fact the book cuts out the scene when the doctor's running away from the military. In the episode, the TV episode, there's that kind of long chase when the doctor's trying to escape from the military in the helicopter. It's padding. It's good padding. I like that scene in the TV story. It's good padding, but it is padding. And I was fine with them cutting it out in the novel because it does feel like padding. Now, one bit of padding I like that's in the TV episode but not in the book as long is when Finch basically has Benton at gunpoint and tells him to cancel the call to Geneva. In the book, Benton just acts like, oh, okay, yeah, the Brigadier's creating treason, yeah. And Finch is like, good soldier. And then when he turns away, Benton just kind of sucker punches him and knocks him out, and that's it. Whereas in the TV episode, they do actually have a tussle. Because I love that bit about when the general is like, you'll be court-martialed, and Benton's like, yes, sir, sorry, sir. Yeah, I like how he's still calling him sir, even though they're fighting. They're sitting there having a fight on the desk, and Benton still is calling him sir. I don't know why. I love that. So in the book, it's a little shorter because he just kind of hits him once and knocks him out. I like it better in the episode when they're actually tussling. And I just love the fact he's still calling him sir. I don't know why, but I love that. I'm trying to remember. There's a couple things I do like better in the episode. One thing I like better, I know, in the book is that there's actually a couple of times when the book gives it to you from the dinosaur's point of view. Like when the T-Rex wakes up after being chained down, it shows you the T-Rex's thoughts as he's fighting to be free. And what wakes him up is Sarah taking pictures with her camera, and the flash wakes the dinosaur up because it has this kind of built-in reaction to flashes because T-Rexes had in the story at least, it claims T-Rexes had a habit of being struck by lightning. There wasn't many trees back then. And keep in mind, T-Rexes back when the story was written, everybody still thought they walked upright with the tail dragging, a lot like Grimlock in the original 80s Transformers, the upright T-Rex. So the T-Rexes got struck by lightning a lot because they were so tall, much taller than everything else around them. So the T-Rex had an inherent fear of flashes. That's what wakes it up. I like seeing that from its point of view. And there's a couple other times, like a Brontosaurus and a Stegosaurus. I absolutely love it. Like, it talks about how the animals are confused because they're not in their element. They see all these buildings. They don't know what they are. They're trying to navigate them. And then they're accidentally bumping into stuff because they see the little mammals, humans, it calls them the little mammals, firing little pop things at them. And they get scared and back up. And they're knocking down a building. They're not meaning to. It shows the innocence of the animals, especially the herbivores like a Brontosaurus or a Stegosaurus. They're not inherently bad. They're just these really big creatures with these really small brains in an environment that they don't understand. And I like that. I really enjoyed that. Especially one of them, I think it was the Stegosaurus. He's just there chilling. And the humans are sitting there annoying him, shooting it. He's like, man, what the fuck? I love that. I absolutely love that. It's like, man, I'm sitting here trying to chill. Why are y'all bothering me? I'm doing nothing. I enjoyed that. There are some things the story does better. They're slipping my mind at the moment, but there are some things I like better. I know about the TV episode that my mind is blanking on. The scene when Mike turns on them is done really well in both. When he actually has them at gunpoint, that's done really well in both. I do like the scene when Benton's left in charge of the doctor after the doctor's been arrested. And Benton's like, well, you better go ahead and knock me out, doctor. That happens in both of them, but the wording of it is different. And I like the way it's done better in the episode, the actual TV episode. It's done fine in the book. But I like the TV episode too. Well, doctor, you better knock me out and get on with it. I love that. It's one of those moments where I'm Team Benton. I am Team Benton. I love that Benton has that kind of faith in the doctor. I love that. I love that. So I do like that better in the episode. So that's the interesting thing about the book, is that there are some things I like better about the book. There are some things I like better about the televised version. So it's hard for me to pick which one is better. Naturally, as I was reading the story, I did picture the dinosaurs as looking a lot better than in the episode. A lot of times when the events were happening with the people, I just kind of had the episode running through my head mentally, but when the dinosaurs popped up, I just kind of, did some updated effects, and we had better dinosaur effects in the movie in my mind. I do in the episode, the scene I was trying to remember. The scene close to the beginning of the story when the doctor and Sarah are having their mug shots taken is done way better in the episode. In the novel, it just basically mentions they went and got mug shots taken or pictures taken, and that's it. Whereas in the actual episode, I love when the third doctor does he's holding up his little placard. He does that little grin of his, that little, and then he turns around, my right profile is my better side. And then Sarah does the same little mocking smile when her picture's taken. That's hilarious to me. I absolutely love that scene in the story. And again, it's just, and they had the mud shots taken in the books. That scene's, 100 times better in the episode. I do love that. But again, this does a good job of fleshing out some things, especially explaining why Mike does the things he does in this story. And I like how it links it to the trauma he went through in the Green Death, which I had not clicked in my head, connected those dots, that this is only 2 stories after that. And I don't think Mike is in Time Warrior. I think we don't see, we see him at the end of the Green Death, and then he doesn't show back up again until Invasion of the Dinosaurs. So this is the next story for him. So I don't think it's like I knew that, but I hadn't quite put that together. Because again, I just watched Invasion of the Dinosaurs for the first time recently, because someone had sent me a copy of it, which I very much appreciated. Very much. They sent me that and Happiness Patrol, I believe. I think I got both at the same time, and they're both fantastic. So yeah, I like the book. It's really good. This was actually sent to me by one of my subscribers, one of my patrons, the Flyattractor, who has sent me several things. So I was glad to read this. This is definitely one of those, because some of the books, like I said, they're pretty much the TV episode in book form, and then some of the books are vastly different. And this is one where it's slight things, some of which are better, some of them are not as good. But I do love, again, the little moments where, like, say, Sarah's attracted to Yates, and the other corporal is attracted to Sarah, and Yates' backstory explaining why he does the things he does. I like that. Those little touches really help her. And again, seeing some things briefly from the dinosaur's point of view. It's a really nice touch, and I like that. So, Doctor Who and the Dinosaur Invasion. Have you read it? What do you think of it? Comment down below and let me know. What do you think it would have been like as a 4th Doctor story? Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon if you like what I do and would like to subscribe to what I do. There is a link to that down in the description below. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me, as this was sent by one of my subscribers, which I appreciate, and the actual DVD I have of this story, of the televised version of it, was also sent by a subscriber. So if you would like to send me anything, my P.O. box is down there. Check that out. I also have a link to my Amazon wish list as well. I want to give a shout out to 2 of my top tier patrons, the 5th Doctor and Stephen Crane. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and the support of all of my subscribers. We crossed over the 800 mark recently. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you very much. I know I see some of you down in the comments every single day, and I want you to know I appreciate that. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.